Hello there, my name is Colleen Markham and I am here with Justine Crowley. Welcome, Justine.
Hi, thank you.
So good to have you. So, Justine is going to be speaking at this Sunday's Healthy Living Expo in Plymouth. It's at Hotel 1620 from 10 to 6, totally free for guests. And you have a talk at 3:15. And I'm so excited to hear from you. So, you are a certified yoga instructor, you're a Reiki practitioner, you're an entrepreneur, nutrition enthusiast, you have a BA in social psychology. And yeah, so what I'd love to just start with for you, Justine, is have you always been drawn to yoga, or how did you find yourself on this path?
So my father actually practiced yoga all the time in front of us, like every morning. He would just kind of, he had his own routine. So I'd always see it, and I was young, so I grew up with it being totally normal, the practice of yoga. My mother didn't practice, but he always wanted her to, and so anyway, so then, time gets, as I got older, he started kind of having his own private practice, and I went to college. I took a few little random, I think I even did hot yoga. That was pretty intense at the time. But I liked the way it made me feel. And I had grown up playing soccer, so it was totally different, but you still had that bond with other people that I seeked once, you get too old, and if you don't want to go to a league or do, college soccer, then you have to find another outlet for a tribe.
Yeah.
So my friend on my mother's birthday brought me to a booty yoga class. So it's BUTI.
Yes,
And
I've heard of it. I've never been, but I'm dying to go.
you have to go. Once you
Okay.
go, it's like you understand all of a sudden what it is. I mean, maybe not,
Yeah.
maybe a few times, but
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Wow.
And that really drew me in because the best thing about booty yoga, which again is spelled BUTI,
Yeah. But it's
is
kind of, booty too.
cute. Yeah, it is.
A little.
It's so a little twist to it. It's
Yeah.
loud music. It's so engaging. You
Yes.
don't have time to think about anything. When I was
Mhm.
practicing, which now I have such an admiration for, and I love like slow paced restorative yoga.
Yes,
But at
yes,
the time, I would just think all the time. I would just be thinking of
yeah,
what papers I had to write for school when I was in
yeah.
college, or,
Mhm.
all the things you have to do. So having this new style where like it was loud music and all kinds of girls, and you could be loud and you could, woo and all these things, it was like a whole new beginning. So
Wow.
it was really cool.
Wow. So is that what you're certified in booty yoga?
Yes, and I now have my 200 RYT. I ended in August of
Oh,
this last.
wow. So you have both then, because I did see, because I'm a yoga enthusiast myself, and I've been practicing just home practice for about 6 months now daily, and it's life changing,
Nice.
absolutely life changing. But I agree with you that there's times when it gets a little like repetitive, it gets a little dull. And yeah, to have that excitement, that, passion, the fire brought into yoga in that way. And that sounds amazing.
Oh, you would love it.
Okay, good.
It already sounds like you. Yeah, you
Yeah,
would.
I'm gonna have to come to your class or something then, I
Yeah,
guess.
before you move. Yeah.
Definitely. So you've been doing yoga for about 3 years now,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people who are doing yoga. There's a lot of people who are, coaches and I'm sorry, teachers and so forth. Why is it that you feel like you're someone who is now stepping out and you're doing talks and you're putting yourself out there like this? Was that something that was inspired in another way?
Yes. So I feel like whenever you're asked that question, you're kind of like, I don't know, I'm just here.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like I just, well, I met Candida. How did I met Candida, I think at a vendor event. So the thing that really brought me also to yoga is I have handmade jewelry that I make that's called Lovely to Soul Wear. So I had started that right when I got out of college, and it
Wow.
was totally just like a, whatever they call it, like a garage type thing where you're making it out of your house and you're just kind of selling it at events, or just selling it to friends and family. I started on Etsy, which is great. Etsy is great
Yeah.
for artists.
Yeah.
And then it really grew into something that It was almost, so I like to call it intuitively designed, because it was like as soon as I found this creative outlet, which yoga is for me as well, all
Mm.
kinds of things just start coming through. All like
Mm.
that connection that we all crave so much starts to
Yes.
pour through you, and you just start to find yourself to be comfortable on the path that you're on, and to realize that wherever you are is completely perfect. Wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. And if you feel uncomfortable in the current position that you are, then that just means that it's pushing you to move away, move into
Mm.
something else, move into another path off of the path that you're currently on. So I
Mhm.
kind of felt like I was in between jobs, and I got this great job at Equity Office, which is,
Mhm.
I was an MLA, a market lease analyst, and I loved it, and I loved the people that I worked with. It was
Yeah.
a 9 to 5. I traveled to Boston, and I just didn't feel connected. It wasn't enough for me. And it
Mm.
was, I mean, there was so much information I had to learn. It was very engaging, but I didn't feel like my purpose was being used. I didn't feel like my skills were being used, my talents, nothing that was, innate in me felt like it was being ignited.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I went to a retreat, for a booty retreat, before I was certified, when I started, like, had practiced, and, had fallen in love with the practice enough to pay for a retreat to go to it in Arizona. And I saw all these women who were so empowered and so self-connected that
Mm.
I realized, oh my God, I want that.
Yeah.
So I got certified. So when you get certified, you don't have to teach, just like with anything.
Yeah.
So it was just the diving in that made me realize this is what makes me feel alive.
Yes.
Ever since then, I've been just gathering all these tools that make me feel alive, and just
Mm.
and it just feels so amazing to feel alive. It's like, it's
Mm.
unspeakable. I don't really have the words to describe the feeling of finally feeling like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel like this is right.
And so, of course, it makes sense that you would then speak about it. And I completely resonate with that. And I find that sometimes it's really hard to describe the level of excitement and joy that we find in our lives, because those who haven't experienced it yet, or maybe are skeptical that it even exists, they find it really tough to kind of meet you on that plane. And we have to just kind of love them where they're at and continue on our journey and hope that eventually they'll come along with us and let that go. But yeah, oh my gosh. So what you're talking about on Sunday, I think resonates with all of this. So it's called Jeeva. So can you tell us about what that is?
Yes. So the way I actually found it was, once I had started getting into yoga, I found Sanskrit, because that's basically the language that originated around yoga to, label the poses mainly. But
Mhm.
also, Sanskrit is this beautiful language that is literally the vibration of what it is, meaning,
Hmm.
I don't know, it's so hard to explain when it's things like this, but so similar to our words, right? So we have the word table.
Mm.
In the universe, unless the universe speaks English, which, of course it speaks all languages, but I'm just saying that word table just is a made up word that we connect with what a table is,
Yeah.
right? That makes sense. So Sanskrit, the word resonates exactly in the universe with what that actually is. So just like everything's a
Mm.
vibration, Sanskrit is like this magical language
Wow.
that the word is the vibration. It's one. So there's no label for that vibration, if that makes sense. When you say the words like Jeeva, that creates a vibration.
Mm.
And that vibration is what Jeeva is.
Ooh, wow. I feel it actually, like I would say in my solar plexus. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like,
Power,
well,
yeah.
actually, no, yeah, life force energy. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Because when you say Jiva, that's where I feel it. Wow.
Cool.
Wow.
Total sense, because so what Jiva is, so anyway, I was exploring different Sanskrit words. I loved mantras. I really got into, regularly practicing mantras, and
Yeah.
seeing how they would make me feel, and switching them up, kind of like adding little spices into my meditation, because I make malas. So
Yeah.
Jiva is, I was looking, so no, I was looking for a word that would sound good for an Instagram name. To be completely honest, that's what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Okay.
So I found Jiva, and I'm like, that's really pretty. And then I looked into the meaning. So what Jeeva is the individual, unique soul that is each one of us, meaning that eternal and infinite piece of you that can never cease to exist. It is always existing. It is part of the universe. It is that one connection that we all are, but we're all unique in our Jeeva. So with that as a foundation for an understanding, I feel like it's a great way to help us all understand how worthy we really are, because you're here.
Yeah.
That's enough. But it's hard in this kind of world to actually believe that.
Yes.
Like, there are so many things that we can put on ourselves to feel like we're not worthy, but because you're here, you are. And I just think it's so beautiful to really trust that that is the truth, because it makes life so much worth enjoying. And so I just want to share this idea, this yoga philosophy, because it's a beautiful foundation for all of these. So there's so many wonderful spiritual teachers that I follow. There's so many in the world that are pushing for this self-worth, because it's so important. It's the basis of everything. And I just feel like Jeeva is that foundational piece that's going to make it all complete, so that we can get out of this human mind and just understand from a soul part of us that we are worthy, because we are here, and because we have a Jeeva, because we are the Jeeva, each of us individually and differently, and it's never going to go away. It's what we are. It's that part that when you really feel connected, that's what you're connected to. You're understanding that that exists, even if you don't, consciously, you're not aware. That's that connection. And I just think that inner connection is what makes everything outside of us so beautiful. And it's what makes us allow authentic expression to display in our life. And authentic expression is what I've sought for years. And of course, I'm sure we'll get into this, but a lot of my story is with the loss of my mother. So with that, I had built up so many walls, and I just felt like I had a filter for everyone. I wasn't myself with anybody. And it was, and still, of course, like that can happen at any point in time, but it's different when you're filtering around a child not to swear or say things that you shouldn't say, or when you're filtering yourself, like things you believe, or even jokes you want to make because you're nervous that someone might not like you. Like those little tiny silly things that in the whole scheme of things isn't anything. So yeah. I feel like I could just go on and on. So I have to stop
Please
myself
do.
at some points.
It's perfect. No, this is wonderful. So when did your mother pass away? How old were you?
I was 17. So I just turned 17. She passed away in February. My birthday was in January. And it was just really quick. She had gotten she was found in 4-stage colon cancer. And she was so healthy before that, as we all thought anyway. It was one of those things that we were vegetarian. We were cooking a lot of stuff in oil, and that's why I'm so into nutrition, because it was colon cancer, which means it could have been prevented. Of course, a lot of things can be prevented, but with this one, it was just kind of like, of course, stressful triggers can trigger, illnesses and disease, but a lot of that came from, we cooked in oil every day. We ate tofu, we fried it. We had, so many things that, like soy. We ate so much soy.
Soy, because you're vegetarian. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the oil piece, because I know there's a lot of us who are well versed in that, but others who maybe just think, oh, what's olive oil? It's fine, it's great, So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So of course I'm not super educated in this, but from what I've understood and what I've researched, when you cook oil, it depends, like certain oils have higher heating temperatures. So for instance,
Grapeseed, avocado.
Yeah, right. So when you use an oil that has a lower temperature, like it's only available to, or allowed to take a certain temperature, I'm not wording this correctly. But once you cook it at a higher temp, it literally starts to turn into plastic. So think about how plastic's made. It's made from oil, petroleum. It's heated up, and then it turns into plastic. And even think about when I'm trying to think, like when you fry potatoes or something, and they kind of start to like
smoke.
Yeah, you can see how that process is taking place before you as you cook. So it's the beautiful thing is that oil is so good for you, depending on the kind. But most oil, of course, not soybean oil, not
No,
corn oil, not
no,
canola oil.
not canola.
So many oils too. But
So what are your favorite oils if you were, to recommend if people were to make a shift today?
I would recommend for cooking, you're saying?
Yeah, or anything.
Okay, so in general, I love coconut oil.
Yep,
Of course, it's the
of
trendiest.
course. Of
Um,
course.
I do love it. I love oil pulling. I love
Yeah.
using it as butter on things. I love avocado oil because I
Yep.
love the taste of avocados. Not that you can really taste it in the oil, but it's just that really good fat.
Richness. Hmm.
Yeah, it's so rich. That's a great way to describe it. I love flaxseed oil.
Flaxseed.
It's Johanna Budwig, who my dad adores. And so she had made this, she was starting to like cure cancer in hospitals in Germany. Have you heard of her?
I have not. Say her name again?
Johanna Budwig.
Joanna Budwig. What a last name. Okay.
I know. And so she would take flaxseed oil and cottage cheese, and when she blended them together, you would literally have to use a hand blender. And when she blended them, it acted differently in your body. So oil,
Um,
yeah, it's of course with a lot of things, it takes research and you have to make sure it's right for your body, of course. You don't just go trying things that, you don't need.
yeah.
But when you blend this particular flaxseed oil that has all kinds of omega-3s and 6s and 9s, it's a complete omega.
Yeah. Yeah.
That with the fat and the protein of the cottage cheese, it turns into this compound that can penetrate your cells. So unlike other, and again, I'm not an expert, so I'm take this with a grain of salt, I guess, or
Oh,
do your
sure.
own research, of course. But when you blend these together and you create this compound, it's able to penetrate these cells and clean out all the bad fat. So the bad, unhealthy fat is what can really cause a lot of damage to your body. So fat, as we've heard in a lot of, keto and, the new type of trends with high fat, some trends are really good, even though they're called a trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you fight fat with fat, it really does clean it out.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
like when you've got oily smudges on your stainless steel fridge and you clean it with more oil and it's clean. Or you clean
yeah,
stainless steel, your, what's it? The cast iron, thing with oil to get the oil off. It makes sense.
yes. And then it ends up being shinier and even more clean than it was before.
There you go. So do you personally use this technique for your health?
I do in portions at a time. So right now I haven't in about probably a year and a half because I do strictly dairy-free, grain-free.
Yeah, I was wondering because I am dairy free as well. I wish I could say I was grain free, but I struggle with dairy because of just how it's processed in this country. So would you recommend getting like a raw cottage cheese or something if you were to do this?
I would recommend, so the things that I've read tell me that when you mix the cottage cheese, it actually somehow it acts differently in your body. So it's no longer a dairy and it's no longer an oil. It
Yeah,
creates a whole separate compound. It's really one of the most interesting things.
I'll have to look into it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's really, really
Wow.
cool. It's just called the Johanna Budwig diet. It's really
Okay.
interesting.
Wow. Wow. So having gone through what you went through, and isn't that interesting? I think that this is something that many of us light workers know, or many of the people watching know this, but it's something to be reminded of that the very things that, are the most traumatic for us are also the things that give us the most purpose. They provide us with, the interest that pulls us forward into new territory all the time. So it's amazing, Justine, that like with what you've been through, that you can take that pain and use it to teach and heal and help others.
Thank
That's
you.
a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
And I feel so blessed to, have had the chance to, chat with you today and to share a little bit of your story, a little bit of what you do and your passion. I know that anyone who attends on Sunday and listens to your talk about Jeeva is going to walk out of there feeling uplifted and refreshed and inspired because you have that presence. And I'm just so excited for you and your journey. I hope we get to work together again because it's been such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Justine. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.